Welcome back guys to Cursor Run, your technology channel. Today we are going to talk about warehouse management mobile app, how to configure it, how to install it, how to connect it with Dynamics 365 finance and operations or Dynamics 365 supply chain management. Guys, if you have any issues or you want to contact me, you can contact me on Instagram or Facebook. My ID is being displayed here, or you can ping me on YouTube as well. You can send me a direct message on YouTube. So without further delay, let's get started. So in today's session, we are going to talk about what is warehouse management application, how to install this application, and you can install it on Windows, iOS or Android devices, how to connect, or what are the other configurations, right? For example, you have to create an app registration. How do you do that? We will talk about all those things in detail, how to set up users, right, in Dynamics 365, and then we'll connect and run the app as well. So let's go. So warehouse management app, like name says, it handles whatever a warehouse floor worker needs to do using a mobile app. For example, he might needs to do his picking list, yeah, right? So the order comes in and then he has a picking list in his hand, and he wants to scan and pick up and do pick pack and all that stuff using a mobile app. So that's what mobile app does. Like I said, it is available on Windows 10 or later, it is available on Android 4.4 or later, and it is also available on iOS 8.0 or later devices. Guys, the communication between the app and your D365 server happens through XML stream, right? The app is directly connected to the iOS or our D365 server, and whenever you push anything from the mobile app to the server or to D365 or from D365 to mobile app, it happens through XML stream. Okay, if you want to install it on Windows devices, you can go to Microsoft Store and install from there. I will show you the Windows and iOS installation just in a second. It is available on Android devices through Google Play Store as well. If your handheld or warehouse device has Android operating system, you can install the app from the Google Play Store. And in the last, you have iOS version as well, where if you are using iOS devices like iPhone or iPad, you can install it from the iOS store or app store as well. So now let's go to our system and install the Windows version as well as the iOS version. Go to Microsoft Store and we will search about warehouse management. So let's search warehouse. So it's the first app in the list, warehouse management app. Click on warehouse management, select the app, hit install. Guys, I am recording it from my hotel room, so I don't know how the bandwidth is, but it should be good enough to download this and install it on our system. While it's installing, you can read out the description. You can pause this screen and see what this app can do for you. The app is installed now, so if you open it, you can connect and do the things, right? We will see all this stuff just in a second. And let me show you, while we are here, let me show you the iOS sample as well, how to install this app on iOS. Let's see that. So we just installed our mobile application on our Windows device and on our iPhone or iOS device, right? So the next step is, now we need to configure, we need to do some configuration so that our mobile application can communicate to our backend D365 system, right? Like any other integration, right? Whether you are creating a Power BI report and that Power BI report is communicating back to the D365 system, or any third-party application needs to communicate or needs to do API calls to the D365 system. So in order to do API calls, we need to provide a client ID and a secret key. You can think of it as an API user ID and API password, so that the underlying communication mechanism between two apps can be authenticated, right? So what we will do, we will create a app registration in our Azure Active Directory. In app registration, we will provide app name. This can be any name, from where we will get client ID and the password, right? So let's do it real quick. Go to portal.azure.com. This should take you to your Azure subscription, and this should be the same tenant where the D365 application is hosted. In case of production environment, we will ask this information from Microsoft. For now, go to portal.azure.com, search app registrations. Click on the app registrations link. That will take you to this particular pane, app registrations. Click on new registration because we want to create a new app credential so that the app API calls can be done. Once you click on new, provide an app name. I'm using D365 Dev WMA. You can use any name you want. The important thing is make sure you select the first option, accounts in the original directory only. What this will do, this will only allow users from your tenant or from your domain to get access to D365 system. And because this is going to be used for API calls, this particular thing is going to provide us client ID and the password. So we are going to select web. That will denote this is a web service kind of a application. And in the URL, copy paste your D365 application base URL, use it until .com. After .com, add a / and write OAuth, OAUTH, right? And click on register. Once you register, this page will open, right? From this page, we know, right, okay, our application app registration is done. Now we need to copy this client ID, right? This is our kind of a user ID for these API communication. Copy this client ID and save it somewhere in the notepad. Now, after this, we need to add some permissions so that we know, or this particular communication knows, that what kind of permission it has to your D365 ERP application. How do you do it? Do it through API permissions. Click on the API permissions and this particular pane will open. Click on add a permission and it will open a dialog box on your right hand side. Request API permission. Scroll down, select Dynamics ERP. So we are adding ERP access to this particular app registration. Once you click on ERP, you will see two sets of permissions. Select on delegate permissions and select whatever you see underlined here. Select all and you can select application permissions and you will see one permission there. Select that as well and then hit add permissions. Once you add permissions, you will see all these permissions are added. Now the last part is we need to generate a password, a secret key. For this, click on certificates and secrets. Click on new client secret, provide a secret name and provide an expiry date. So that particular password or a security key will be valid for this particular duration. After this, you need to generate it again. Hit add and you will get your secret key created. Now the important thing is just copy it as soon as you see it on your screen, because once you go away from this particular form or screen, you won't be able to copy it again. In that case, you need to create another secret key and use that one. So copy this as well and save it somewhere in the notepad. So in our notepad, we have client ID and secret key copied. Okay, all right. So that's done. The next step is we need to tell our D365 ERP application that okay, there is a API, there might be an API communication coming in using that particular client ID. So we need to add a Azure Active Directory applications, right? Go to System Administration, Setup and Azure Active Directory applications. Once you hit, this form will open. Now we need to add the client ID we got in the application. Now click on new and add a new record. Copy paste the client ID that you saved on your notepad to this new record and provide it a name, whatever name you want to provide it, and select a Dynamics 365 user which is going to be used for all the operations that will be done using this client ID. All right. So the API registration is giving us client ID and password. In D365, we are telling, okay, this is a valid client ID. Whatever communication is being done using this client ID should be done through this user ID. So this is a mapping between client ID and the Dynamics 365 user ID. And this particular user, I am using admin. You in your production environment, you won't be using admin user. You will be using a separate user, maybe WMA service, right? Use that user ID instead. And that user needs to have one role assigned to it called warehouse mobile device user. This is the role that needs to be added to this particular warehouse mobile user. All right. Now the third thing is we need to create actual mobile users, right? This is not the mobile user. This is the backend process user, which will be creating transactions, personating this particular user, right? Now you need a login ID and a password to log into the mobile application, right? This was for API communication. Now we need to create mobile users. Okay, for that you can go to warehouse management, setup and worker. Here we will create workers or actual warehouse mobile users who will be logging in their device. So once you click on that, this screen will pop up. If it is blank, click new and select a worker. So Julia is my username for this admin user. So select Julia here, and under this create user IDs here, right? These are mobile user IDs. So click on new, provide user ID password and the username, etc. So what we are saying is when I log into my mobile application, I will be using user ID as, I will be typing in the user ID field 24 and whatever password I provide here at the time of creation, right? Default warehouse will be this, menu this, and whatever the default things or configuration we do for this particular user here. Okay, we are done with the most of the configuration that we wanted to do, right? We did the app registration for our API calls. We did and we added the client ID from the app registration to D365, connected to a D365 user and added the workers. Let's see the next step. Now once we are done with all the configurations, now it's time to test our application if it connects with the backend system. So open warehouse management. I'm right now trying to use my Windows application and we'll try with the iOS application later. So open warehouse management, connect, set up connection. There are multiple ways to connect, but for now we are going to manually provide input, right? So there are two methods for connection. We are going to use client secret. If you have certificate based, you can use certificate, but for now use client. Give it any name you want. This is a connection name. Client ID, copy paste the client. You remember we saved two things, client ID and the secret key in the notepad. So provide client ID here, secret key here. In the Azure AD resource, provide your D365 app URL. In the tenant, you provide your login tenant URL. I will fill it in, and the company, default company, right? So let me fill all this stuff and then I'll show you just in a second. All right, so I have filled in all the related information, whatever was needed. After filling all this information, one thing you need to note here is in the Azure AD resource, I have copy pasted my D365 app URL, right? Make sure there is no / at the end. And in the tenant itself, instead of this domain, you need to use your domain. For example, if your user ID is rahul@microsoft.com, you will use microsoft.com here, right? So I will use the my tenants thing here, and then we will click on save. So we have created a connection with the required information, right? Now once this is done, hit connect. So some user terms and conditions, read it, say I understand. Now it's trying to communicate with our D365 application using an API call. The app registration we did where we got client ID and secret key, it is going to the D365 server, making sure that this is an authenticated call. Once that communication is done, now it is asking us to provide worker user ID or passwords we created, right? So if you remember, we created user IDs and those, right? Let me show you. So you remember, like on the worker screen, we created these users under my admin user. So the user ID is this. For this particular session, the password is same as well, 24. Sign in. Let's see. Perfect. Bingo. So we are now able to sign into the mobile app as well. Now let me show you for the demo purpose. I have aligned both the applications side by side. On the left hand side, we have our mobile application, and on the right hand side, we have our D365 ERP system. So let's do a quick demo. Let's do an inventory inquiry or item inquiry. Before that, let me show you one thing. So this particular user, the user 24, if you remember, our user 24 is connected to warehouse 24. So what this means is this particular worker is working in warehouse 24. So if I see in our application, if I click on change warehouse, currently it is showing it is connected to warehouse 24. You can change the warehouse as well by clicking here, but for now let's do the item inquiry in that particular warehouse. Okay, So let's go to product information management, released products. Let's pick one product. So I know this A0, if I select this, is available in warehouse 24. If I check on hand inventory, so this is available in 24, right? So A001. So let's search for A001. And guys, this is a touch screen laptop I have, so I can do this, hit and drag. So we are searching for A01 to complete the action. To cancel it, I need to drag it to cross, or I need to drag it to this tick mark. So voila, so it went to the D365 system. In the real time, it sent the query in a XML format and retrieved the data in a XML format and then showed it on the mobile screen. All right, so this is how the communication works between mobile application and the D365. So let's see a few more things, right? Let's come out of this. And guys, this is, like I was explaining, this is a responsive UI. So on your iPad or tablet, it will look like this, and in a mobile device it will look something like this. Okay, all right. So let's say you can do few things here, right? Let's say you want to change the theme, right? So click on color theme. Let's say we want to use a dark theme, so the whole application converts into a dark theme, right? But the fun part is all this information is not being saved locally, it's being saved to the D365 application, right? What it means is, if particular user 24, worker 24 uses his credential on any handheld device, right, he will get his personalizations there. So in D365, if I go to warehouse management, let me see if I can show you. Yeah, there should be user settings for this user 24, because this is the only user who have logged in to the application. If another user logs into the mobile application, there will be another entry for that user. So this user, all his personalizations and whatever information is stored, it's being stored here. Okay, so for example, display color theme is dark, right? Because we changed it to dark. Let's say not dark, I want to use high contrast black. Okay, so it is high contrast black here. Yeah, so if I refresh D365, you will see it is high contrast black, right? So all personalization is being saved into the D365 application. All right, so that's and whatever like changes you want to do, right? I don't like this thing, let me change it to dark. Okay, so you can change it to the dark, right? The button position, right? Where do you want to see button position? Because it's a handheld device, right? Maybe if you are you use your left hand to do all your work and you want to hold the device on your left hand, you might want to see buttons on your left side, right? So you can define all that stuff. And if you want to, based on your requirement, you can increase the text size, button scaling, and all those things, right? So guys, let's do a quick demo of our iPhone app as well, if we are able to connect with the iPhone app. All right, so this is my iPhone app. Let's share it there. All right, so on the iPhone app as well, I did the same configuration, same connection strings that we did on our Windows app. So after this, click on this. So this is my connection, iPhone, right? I named it iPhone. Now hit connect. Again, the same user terms and conditions, I understand. Now it's trying to connect to the D365 backend. Remember, we were using 24. Password is same, 24. Sign in. Voila, we are able to use this, the same warehouse mobile app experience through iOS as well. Now let's do the quick inquiry as well for the same product. I will do item inquiry. That was A001 back, drag it here, voila. So we are able to configure and fetch the data from D365 as well. Same setup you will see here as well. If you go to the settings and same dark, or so you remember, like we on my Windows application or Windows mobile app, we set it the theme as dark. Here as well it is showing us dark. So if you use the same mobile ID, same mobile user ID on multiple devices, whatever personalization you have done are getting saved in the ERP system and pulled back when you log into any new device. So guys, I think that's where we end our session. And if you really find it like I did some useful stuff today, so do consider to subscribe to the channel. Please do subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Until then, take care, have fun guys, bye bye.